The Prince and the Maid. I will never forget the story of Prince Kofi and the girl he hated most. I saw everything with my own eyes. I lived in the palace, cleaning the halls, fetching water, and hearing whispers in the dark. People think they know what happened, but they don't. Not like I do. Prince Kofi was the king's only son. He had everything: gold, horses, warriors ready to fight for him. He was strong, tall, and handsome, but his heart was black. He treated the servants like insects, like things beneath his feet. If he was angry, he would beat them. If he was in a good mood, he would still mock them. Among us servants, there was a girl named Abena. She was small, quiet, and had the softest voice. She worked harder than anyone, but Prince Kofi hated her most. No one knew why. Maybe because she never cried when he insulted her. Maybe because she did not flinch when he threw things at her. She was the only one who never showed fear. One day, the king threw a feast. The whole kingdom came. There was food, music, and dancing. But that night, something happened. Something dark. A strange old woman arrived at the palace. She wore a red cloth around her waist, her hair in long, white braids. No one knew where she came from, but the king welcomed her, for in our land, we respect the old. She ate and drank, then she stood up and spoke. "I bring a warning," she said, her voice heavy like a storm. "There is a shadow over this palace. A wicked heart will soon see darkness, and only the one he despises most will save him." Silence fell over the hall. Then, Prince Kofi laughed. "You speak nonsense, old woman," he said. "No darkness can touch me." The woman only smiled. "We shall see." Then she turned and left. That night, the storm came. The wind howled, the trees bent, and the palace doors flew open on their own. A great sickness fell upon Prince Kofi. He screamed through the night, tossing and turning. No healer could help him. His body burned like fire, his skin turned cold like stone. His mother wept, his father sent men to every village for help. But nothing worked. Then, a whisper spread through the palace. "Let Abena take care of him." The idea was foolish. She was just a servant. But the old woman's words had taken root in everyone's mind. Only the one he despises most will save him. So they brought Abena to his chamber. She did not flinch when she saw him, when she smelled the sickness on his skin. She sat beside him, wiped his forehead, fed him bitter herbs. And as the days passed, something strange happened. The sickness did not take him. Slowly, he healed. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Abena. He had no strength to shout, no energy to push her away. He could only watch as she placed a cool cloth on his head, her face calm, her eyes tired but steady. And for the first time in his life, Prince Kofi felt something new. Something sharp in his chest. Shame. The days passed slowly. Abena barely spoke to him, but she did not leave his side. She forced him to eat, made him drink healing teas, and when the fever returned, she stayed awake through the night, cooling his body with wet cloths. The prince watched her, confused. Why would she help him? He had never been kind to her. One night, as the rain pounded against the palace walls, Prince Kofi finally spoke. "Why are you here?" Abena did not look at him. She dipped a cloth into a bowl of cool water and placed it against his burning forehead. "Because you are sick." He swallowed, his throat dry. "But why do you care?" She met his gaze then, her eyes dark and unreadable. "Because I am not like you." Prince Kofi had no answer to that. He turned his head away, staring at the flickering candlelight. The room felt colder than before. After that, he changed. He stopped shouting at the servants, stopped throwing things. He watched Abena closely, followed her with his eyes when she walked through the halls. The whole palace noticed. The prince was not the same. One evening, he called for Abena. She stood before him, waiting. He looked at her for a long time before speaking. "I was cruel to you." She nodded. "Yes." His throat tightened. "Why did you help me?" "Because I am not like you." Her words cut him deeper than any sword. From that day, he treated her with respect. He listened to her advice, valued her wisdom. And little by little, something changed in his heart. It was slow, like the sun rising, but it happened. He grew kinder. He learned to lead with his mind, not his fist. Still, the kingdom did not forget the old prince. The nobles whispered, the people watched. Some believed his kindness was only temporary. Others feared he would return to his wicked ways. But Prince Kofi did not waver. To prove himself, he traveled across the land, helping those in need. He built wells for villages without water, repaired roads destroyed by storms, and made peace with neighboring tribes. Slowly, the people accepted him. But one person remained unmoved, Abena. Though she no longer avoided him, she was careful. She spoke to him with respect, but not warmth. She performed her duties, but did not seek him out. And Prince Kofi knew why. He had hurt her too much. One day, he asked, "What must I do to earn your forgiveness?" Abena looked at him. "Forgiveness is not something to be earned," she said. "It is something to be given." Prince Kofi lowered his head. "Then will you give it to me?" She did not answer. Not that day. Not for many days after. But she stayed. And for now, that was enough. When he was strong enough to stand, he went to his father. "I wish to marry Abena," he said. The king nearly fell from his seat. "Have you gone mad?" But Prince Kofi did not argue. He simply said, "She saved my life." And so, the king agreed. The people whispered, but no one dared speak against it. The prince who once hated Abena now stood beside her. And when they married, the storms never came again. Some say Abena forgave him. Some say she did not. But what I know is this: they lived. And maybe, just maybe, they found peace. I was there. I saw it all. And I will never forget. But there was one more thing. Years passed, and the prince and Abena ruled the land. They had children, wise and strong. They were loved by the people. But one night, an old woman came to the palace again. She wore a red cloth around her waist, her hair now pure white. She looked at Prince Kofi and Abena and smiled. "You have learned well," she said. "Your heart is no longer black." Prince Kofi lowered his head. "I was a fool." The woman nodded. "Yes. But fools who learn become wise." And with that, she turned and left, disappearing into the night. No one saw her again. But I remember. I remember everything. And now, I share it with you, so you too will never forget. For the story does not end with them. Their children ruled with wisdom, but their past was never erased. The people always remembered the wicked prince who became kind, and the servant who saved him. It was a tale told by firesides, a lesson for those who would listen.